Hey, what's up, guys? So, what does weightlifting, the church militant, and suffering all have in common? Let's talk about that today. So, before we talk about what is weightlifting, the church militant, and suffering all have in common, do me a favor. Hit subscribe because otherwise you get stuck on the scroll and your Play-Doh minds will forget about it, and it's no good for anyone. It doesn't help anyone. All right, so this will be a fun video today. Let me tell you a story that leads into why these things are all correlated together. So I'm at the gym this morning and I'm finishing up my workout. And to finish my workout, I'm doing dips. So I quickly get up and I do dips. And I don't have any weights on me, I'm just doing dips. And I go, man, I do those dips and I'm like, the dips are going to be hard today. I don't know if I could weight my dips. So I do another set with no weighted dips. And again, it's hard, right? It's hard. Those dips are feeling a bit more laborsome than I'm used to. So then I'm like, all right, well, whatever, who cares? I'm just gonna do weighted dips anyway. So I grab the belt with the chain on it, and I put on a 45, and I'm like, well, whatever happens, happens. Like I'm just gonna do as many as I can. And sure enough, it was easier for me to do the dips that were weighted. And that got me to thinking. Sometimes it's hard to do stuff if you don't have anything that is pushing up against you. That's why I think weight training and the church militant and suffering have a lot of good in them because it gives you something to push against. Like you almost need something to continuously push you and to push against because that makes you stronger. And the same thing goes to the spiritual realm. The same thing goes with marriage, with children, with your realm, with your job, with your spirituality, with your focus on obedience. So today, let's correlate all these three things together. So weightlifting, the church militant, and suffering. What do they all have in common? That pushback, right? Let's kick it off with the church militant. So, hey, Rich, what is the church militant? I don't know. Let's go look it up. I do know, actually. All right. So this is from the Baltimore Catechism. How many branches or parts of the church are there? There are 3 branches or parts of the church called the church militant, the church suffering, and the church triumphant. Today, we're just going to talk only about the church militant because that's what we're pushing up against. That's why we're here. That's why I'm making these videos. That's why you guys are listening to these videos. And if you're listening, hit subscribe. Otherwise, it doesn't grow. Nothing happens. All right. Next question. What do we mean by the church militant? By the church militant or fighting church, we mean all the faithful who are still upon the earth struggling for their salvation by warring against their spiritual enemies, by warring against their spiritual enemies. I think the church has done probably a poor job lately of making the church militant known. The church is so full of mercy, which is a good thing, but it's only a good thing if it's balanced out. If there's nothing to push against and it's all mercy all the time and you're always forgiven without having to push up against anything, then who cares about that? It takes all the fun out of the church militant. It takes the battle out of it. And there's one sex that likes to battle more than anything else. Like we need something to push against, and that's men. Men are naturally inclined to make war, to battle, to push against things. That's why the church militant is such a sexy concept because you're constantly at war. Like that same thing, the gym, weightlifting. You need something to push against to make you stronger. Same thing, maybe you guys are in tough marriages and maybe you're correcting your wife, maybe there's a lot of correction in you that's happening quite a bit and you're pushing up against it. That's making you stronger the entire time. I sometimes liken marriage, and I've said this many times to many a friend, is marriage can be like a grindstone. Like imagine your wife's that giant grindstone and it's turning and it's super rough. Here's the deal. Like if you are get up against that and you just hold your armor, your shield in one place, boom, you're done, man. It's going to go right through. That's it. But if you kind of take that sword or that armor and you go up against it and you polish it, that's how it works. That's how it works. All right, so weightlifting, church militant, and suffering all have in common. Now let's take a quick note from the rule of Saint Benedict. And I'll read this out to you guys. And this is why the church is full of truth. The labor, this is from the rule of Saint Benedict, the labor of obedience will bring you back to him from whom you have drifted away through the sloth of disobedience. So there's a militaristic aspect of the church and your life and weightlifting and everything that you do, but you have a sloth of disobedience. So when you have no obedience to God, to your craft, to weightlifting, to whatever, no purpose to any of those things, you're disobedient. That's not militaristic at all. Any books that you read on the military, there's constant evolutions in obedience, non-stop. Like the Romans attribute everything that they did, conquering the known world and bringing it under their submission by discipline and obedience, non-stop. They weren't the strongest army in the world. I mean, they didn't start out that way, that's for sure. They became, but also they never stopped training. And once they did, that was the end. That was the end of them. And then Vegetarius writes, this is what made them great, and this is how we can be great again. We need to get discipline and obedience back. The same thing, the rule of Saint Benedict. And then he goes on to write, give up your own will. Once and for all, and armed with strong and noble weapons of obedience, do battle for the true King, Christ the Lord. So you have to view this world, this place that we're in right now, as your purpose, your battle of obedience to God. And then let's do one more quick little lesson. And this is from Thomas Kempis, who was a monk. And this is in the Imitation of Christ in Book 1, number 6, under Unbridled Affections, back to the church militant and weightlifting and pushing things, having something to push against, is an unmortified man is quickly tempted and overcome by small, trifling evils. His spirit is weak, in measure carnal, and inclined to sensual things. He can hardly abstain from earthly desires. Again, an unmortified man is quickly tempted and overcome by small, trifling evils. So if you have nothing to push against, and you have not been tested in battle and pushed up against little tiny things, got into tiny little skirmishes and battles in the spiritual life, in correcting your family, correcting yourself, then you're weak. There's no weight. There's nothing to push against. There's nothing there. And it makes, just like I said in that example of doing dips, it was just my body weight. And I thought to myself, how am I going to do this? But the second I got a belt on and I strapped on a 45-pound weight, the dips got a whole lot easier. That's the same thing with the spiritual life. Get tested and battle hardened in small areas of your life that you can have those skirmishes and conquer, and you will continually get stronger and stronger. The other thing too is you don't need to share this with everybody. I'm sharing it with you guys because like I've been there, done that, and I had to discover it for myself. And if I could save some of you guys like a little bit of time in having purpose with your life and having purpose and almost in a way really enjoying that suffering, like finding joy in that suffering, finding joy in all those sufferings in life as something to push back against for your growth, your strength, your spiritual strength, your marriage, your family, what you're building as a man, as a husband. That's what I want you guys to do. So if you like this video and you want more like it, then share it because that's how this whole thing works. So share, subscribe, make a comment, ask me a question so I don't have to like keep thinking of material that you guys like and looking at past views of videos of like what works and what doesn't work. Just hit me up, let me know what it is, and that's it. Subscribe. Out.